Mesnevi 13. The prophets, verse Amanuensis. There was a scribe before Uthman had filled that post, most diligent in noting Revelation's host. Whatever text the prophet had to promulgate, on parchment did the scribe trace all its terms of fate. The splendor of those inspirations filled his soul. His mind became enlightened as a glowing coal. The substance of that wisdom from the prophet came. The silly scribe imagined 'twas his genius's flame. The texts the prophet promulgates with rare effect appear verbatim in my mind without defect. The prophet was aware of this egregious sin. The wrath of God descended from high heavens Woken. The scribe renounced his office and his faith at once. Religion's fiercest foe, he stood now for the nonce. The prophet questioned him, benighted, wretched man. If light there be in thee, whence this, thy darkest plan? Hast thou a fountain of God's truth been, verily? This turbid stream had never flowed thence heavily. Not caring to expose his scribe to all his friends, the prophet held his peace to watch the adventure's ends. The scribe's heart hardened more and more as time rolled on. Repentance he felt not, his pride grew thereupon. He sighed, his sighs were not the sighs of contrite heart, but tokens sure that justice made him feel its smart. God caused his pride to weigh more heavy than a chain. How many thus are fettered? None can heal their pain. His blasphemy and pride held him in iron grip. His very sighs he felt constrained to stifle on his lip. He cried the iron collars they're compelled to wear. There is naught but iron collars. These are all we bear. Behind them is a barrier, but we've bound their eyes so that they see not what's before behind those ties. The barrier so upreared appears a level plain. He knows not 'tis a bourne that checks him like a chain. The witness is a barrier, bars sight of the Lord. My teacher is a veil, shuts out God's holy word. How many infidels, O long faith to possess, their pride, their honor stands between them and success. That barrier unseens, then iron, firmer still. An axe can hew through iron, not through stubborn will. A bond of iron may be broken by due means. A moral bond is what holds firmest where it leans. A bee, a wasp, may sting one to the very quick, yet may the same be warded by precaution's trick. But what's to do when sting is in our very selves? The pain is then most biting, deeper far it delves. Unwillingly has leaped this subject from my mind. I fear 'twill leave despair and many deep behind. Despair thou not, take consolation to thy soul, and cry to that deliverer who can make thee whole. Thou lover of forgiveness, pardon to me grant, physician of the soul, relieve my direful want. Such counsel wise drove mad that erring sinner quite. Think not of him, 'twill tire thy mind beyond respite. My friend, his counsel tells with equal force on thee. It flows through all the saints, though transient thou it see. Within the house a gleam of light has been espied. This light comes from a neighbor's lamp with oil supplied. Give thanks for it, be not puffed up. Snort not, good man. To me lend ear, presumption chase to utmost span. Alas, that is most transient ray of dubious light. The nation has seduced from God's sole path of right. I'll be the very slave of him who at each stage will not suppose the goal 'tis of his pilgrimage. How many stages are there must be left behind before the traveler reach the home he bears in mind. Although the iron may glow red, the color's not its own, 'tis but reflection of a fire that's hot. A window or a house with light may be suffused, but still the source of light is in the sun diffused. Each wall, each gate may cry amain, I shine, I shine. I have no need of others' light. 'Tis mine, 'tis mine. But then the sun demurs, O thing of little sense, so soon as I shall set, thy darkness will be dense. The plants may think the verdur's all their very own, so fresh, so green, so pleasant, every flower full blown. But then again, the summer season makes comment. When I am past, your present charms will soon be spent. A beauty's lovely body prides itself as fair, her spirit having hid itself within its lair. Remarks thou dunghill, therefore all this silly pride, thou bloomest but a day or two, while I preside. Thy affection, vanities, too vast for me. But stay till I depart, and straightway thou shalt see. Thy lovers then shall loathe thy charms, adored before. To worms and toads and snakes they'll fling thee as cheap store. Thy stench shall make him hold his nose in deep disgust, who lately in thy presence would have licked the dust. Reflections from the spirit are the tongue, the eye, the ear. Ascensions from the fire streams, bubbles, 'tis up there. E'en as the soul's reflection on the body acts, reflection from the inspiring saints my soul impacts. When my soul's life shall quit my soul, alack a day, my soul shall lifeless be, like mortal soulless clay. 'Tis therefore that I cast myself down in the dust, that earth may witness bear for me before the all just. In day of judgment, when the earth shall quake with fear, earth shall itself bear witness to my prayerful tear. Command shall issue, loud proclaim the acts outseen. The earth, the rocks, a tongue shall find to tell what's been. Philosophers deny this in their pride of mind, but tell them, dash your heads against the wall, ye blind. The speech of earth, of water, and of plastic clay is audible to the ears of saints that pray. Philosophers who will deny God's saving grace are strangers to the powers of saints' inspired race. He holds that inclination working on man's brain, gives rise to heated fantasies, ledger domain. True, his own blasphemy, a lack of firm belief, have raised in him denial's phantom, reason's thief. Philosophers deny the devil does exist, while they themselves his sport are in his cursed fist. Hast never seen the devil look at thy own self, who'd paint his forehead blue, unless deceived by elf? Whoever hath a doubt or trouble in his mind, in secrets a philosopher, as you may find, he wears the outward semblance of belief, but then, anon than ever his philosophy claims pen. Beware, all ye believers. In you lurks this germ. Within yourself lies latent, vile deception's sperm. The 72 sects are all within your hearts, and only wait a chance to play their fatal parts. Whoever hath the bud of faith grown in his breast, as aspen leaf must tremble lest it be suppressed. Thou laughest at the devil in thy foolish pride. Thyself thou hast imagined sin's stern aside. But when thy soul shall manifested be to all, sad sighs and moans shall rise from those who are seen to fall. Exhibitors of base coin in this world below, smile now, the touchstone yet is hidden in form's glow. O veiler of men's sins, lift not thy veil from us. In day of trial be our helper gracious. Adulteration now contends with purest coin. The gold awaits the day of trial to rejoin. It slyly thinks in its mute way without ado, await the little false ones, trial comes. So who? Or was not Satan's self in ages long gone by? Of light an angel, prince of powers, a galaxy, until he envied Adam in his forward heart. Then he fell an outcast from heaven's high rampart. The sun, a bearer, Balaam, in the world's esteem, was equal unto Moses. So all men did deem. To him alone was homage paid by high and low. His prayers were reckoned medicine for every woe. To Moses he opposed himself in foolish pride. The scripture tells us how most miserably he died. Of Balaam's and of Satan's in this world of ours, some manifest, some secret troops come at all hours. God granted them celebrity within their spheres, that they may witness bear against their own compeers. Then both are elevated on a gallows high, as warning unto others who for honors sigh. They both were covetous of homage and applause, and both received due punishment through God's just laws. Thou man, perchance, the idol of some crowd mayest be. For God's sake, then, beware thou transgress not as he, and setting up thyself against a better man, thou come to grief and bring to wreck thy every plan. The tales of Ad and the mood have the moral clear, that saints of God and righteous men are held more dear. Those signs and swift destruction overwhelming them, proclaim thou the power that the saints around us hem. As brutes are slain, that man may live a life of ease, so men are slaughtered when they sin against God's decrees. For what is wisdom? 'Tis the omniscience divine. Man's wisdom is but folly set against that mine. The brutes are timid, shun man's presence everywhere. Though man in numbers yields to them within this sphere, their blood may lawfully be shed for needs of man, because they lack the ennobling spark of reason's scan. The brute is held of low degree on this, our earth, as being weighed against great man's superior worth. What value will attach to thee, thou errant fool, if like a donkey thou spite the Lord of reason's school? That donkey that renders service meets unto his Lord. Men slay not 'tis, the wild donkey does them chase afford. The donkey reaps not of recompense for merit due, yet when he errs, fell punishment awaits him true. If man then go astray, much more he's worthy blame. Most justly shall chastisement visit him with shame. The blood of misbelievers righteously is shed. With sword and arrow, like wild donkey on mountain bed, their wives and children fall a prey to victor's hand, and that they lack true wisdom, cursed of God they stand. The reasonable creature, fleeing reason's Lord, pronounces reason, brute becomes, calls for the sword. Harut Marut, to angels famed throughout the earth. Through pride and insolence, lost paradise for dearth. They trusted in the wondrous power they held of old, as though a buffalo against lion should wax bold. His horns are mighty weapons, fearful to the foe. The lion tears in piecemeal horns, but works in woe. Had he as many horns as hedgehog quills, or they'd help him not. The lion still would him overpower. The hurricane roots up the forest trees amain, while pliant reeds from it no injury sustain. The fury of the blast hurts not their supple ease. Of strength then boast thee not, man, seek wrath to appease. The axe is nothing daunted, seeking boughs of trees, but one by one hews through them all, their end foresees. The axe sets not its trenchant edge to top off leaves. 'Tis not the silky down of thistles that it cleaves. A flame is not abashed, though many thorns collect. Whole herds of sheep can never butcher's knife deflect. To inward ideas power the outward sign must yield. That power 'tis makes revolve the heavens' vast starry field. The sphere and the circling firmament, consider now what makes it turn a force that rest will not allow. The movements of our bodies have no other source. The soul originates all vital force. The circulation of the airs from an idea. The millstone turns by water from the field's area. The ebb and flow of times, breath drawn, again expired, whence all 'tis life compels, diffuse through all respired. The spirit 'tis decides what words our pen shall write. Our peace, our war, or anything our minds indite. To right to left we go, and as the spirit wills, a rose of thorn, the spirit says, which place it fills. Our God it was who sent this vital air in blasts, like breath of dragons, to destroy old Ad's outcasts, while to the faithful it gave peace and health and strength, and gentle zephyrs softly breathing whole days length. The prophet hath assured us, God's the soul of all. The Lord's the ocean, whence the rills of spirit fall. The strata of the heavens and earth, with all therein, are merely straws afloat on waves where powers begin. They dance about, are carried here and there by turns. Their movement from the waves, that power divine still churns, decrees this, they shall be at rest. At once they're flung aside upon the shore, there to decay like dung. Whilst it that they be tossed about on waves high flown, they're but the leaves of autumn by the winds blown wild. Now turn we from the subject most engaging still to learn about those angels. Victims of self-will. The sins of all mankind were known to them as sure. No wickedness escapes the glance of spirits pure. In anger at such baseness, they were moved to scorn. Their own defect was hidden from their sight, heaven born. An ugly man once saw his face in looking glass. He turned away in rage with that reflecting mass. So when oneself conceited sees another's fault, a flame from hell is lighted in his bad heart's fault. 'Tis pride inflames him, holy zeal, he dubs it straight, not conscious of the vanity that makes his freight. A zeal for holiness by other tokens shines, and lights a fire by which to ashes earth declines. God said to them, if you both shine with virtue's ray, no notice take a man's backsliding from its way. Give thanks and praises rather, you're not made like them. Lust of the flesh, concupiscence, soil not your stem. Had I imposed upon you that great burden sore, the heavens would not have been your home forevermore. That the chastity that decks your spirit nature now, reflection is of purity that lights my brow. Know this is but a quality you hold from me. So shall the accursed one not make you slaves to be. And as the prophet scribe, with self-importance puffed, imagined holy wisdom's light shone as he stuffed. Himself he fancied equal a prophetic choir. His raven croaked as their sweet song he dared admire. Who sets up to write the notes of every bird, knows not the inspiring springs within their bosom stirred. Could man acquire the note of nightingale so sweet, would he have learnt as well its love, the rose to meet? Should he achieve a notion of that love's intent, 'twould be a mere surmise, like deaf man's, from lips consent. Such deaf man once was made aware by some kind friend, that next door dwelt an invalid near to his end. The poor man thought within himself, I'm deaf as stone, How can I hope to comprehend this neighbor's tone? More specifically, as sick men speak so very low. Still go I must, mere decency demands my bow. When I advance, he'll meet address, his lips will move. From thence, I'll glean a notion, may not quite false prove. This is supposed to be bow. I'll ask him how he feels today. Mid so much pain, he'll answer surely, thank you, better in the main. Reply I will, most happy, how's the appetite? He'll answer pretty good. If chicken broth invite, I'll say good, good. And what are you allowed to drink? Who is your doctor? He'll respond, as one may think. Then I'll remark, with so much talent at command, you can't do better. Soon I hope to see you stand. I've had experience of his skill. I know his worth. With him as guide, you'll not go wrong, so forth. Thus, having got his fancy answered, all by heart, he goes to see the sick man deftly place his part. On asking, how are you? The patient says, you're dead. The deaf man straight rejoins, of that I'm very glad. The sufferer felt insulted by this joy expressed. The deaf one had surmised, had failed in what he guessed. He now inquired the diet. Oh, it's poison all. Complained the sick man, glad to hear it. He let fall. Still more the patient wondered, who attends you, pray? Acts deftly. Whose advice is it leads you on your way? Death tracks my hours, said he. Pray leave me now to rest. The other answered, better can't be found, he's best. The visitor retired, quite pleasing with his rich art, and offered thanks for having played so kind a part. The sick man, on the contrary, was all on fire. Whence comes this malice? Who has roused his soul to ire? So turning his mind, the matter o'er and o'er, a message he determines that shall pay the score. Just so a man who's eaten ill-digesting food can have no rest till it's ejected, well and good. Long suffering is thy better part, reject it not. With patience thou shalt find soft words, best heal a plot. But our sick man found no such solace for his mind. He called the deaf one donkey and fool and sot and blind. Said he, I'll serve him out. I'll pay him what's his due. Till then, my spirit will his hateful visit rue. A visit to the sick, for consolation's sake. His visit I abhor, insults I'll not take. He wished to gloat on foe, laid prostrate at his feet, some joy to gather thence, his secret hate to greet. How many pious men there are to outward view, reward of joy in heaven an object who pursue. At heart, they're sinners still, despite the show they make. Alas, hypocrisy for righteousness they take. Just as our deaf man thought he'd done a friendly act, yet withal had vexed his neighbor as a fact. He soothed the soul by thinking, kindly part I've played. I've acted as a neighbor's sorrow I've allayed. Whereas, in truth, a fire he blighted for himself, and as his sick neighbor's heart inspired with vengeful elf. Beware the fires you kindle by such acts as this. Beware offense to give while proffering a kiss. The prophet said, one was a hypocrite, he knew, Go worship, friend, thy acts no worship, as I true. For fear lest we should trespass even as we pray, our worship has the prayer, Lord, guide us in thy way. Permit not thou, O God, that my devotions act be counted erring hypocrites, unwelcome pact. The surmise of our death man wide was of the mark. A 10 years friendship 'twould have wrecked. Beware such spark. Man's judgment, friend, that's based on senses treacherous sand, can never be compared with revelation's wand. Hast ear to hear, hast mind to recognize the truth? Know then thy moral ear is deaf to godly sooth. The first who followed sense and reason as he thought, instead of God's true light, the devil was or taught. He judged the fire more noble is than sordid earth. From fire was I created, clay gave Adam birth. The stalk her whence it springs, besides each kind of fruit. From darkness Adam sprung, light at my birth did suit. The Lord replied, 'Tis not a question of descent, for eminence is here the prize of righteousness meant. 'Tis not a heritage of worldly wealth to share. Why talk of ancestry, heart's qualities declare? The heritage we've now to give, its prophecy, the errors thereto, they are they whose spirits hate a lie. The son of Abu Jahl believed and saved his soul. A son of Noah rebelled, became perdition's goal. The son of earth was made resplendent as the moon. Thou son of fire, gone, disgraced, cursed, none too soon. Investigations, reasonings on days of cloud. By night in darkness, guide the doubting crowd. But when the sun shines, when God's temple clearly seen, no doubt remains which way to turn one's face, I ween. The temple hidden, its direction quite unknown. Then use thy judgment, God this method's kindly shown. Whenever you hear a note of God's true warbling bird, you straightway seize its literal sense, just as 'tis heard. You then use suppositions of your darksome mind, and form through wrong conclusions. Guess is worse than blind. The saints use terms of technical significance, unknown to worldly reasoners, crass ignorance. The language of the bird you learn as to its notes, but clean destroy its sense as sure as fancy dotes. Being as the sick man of our tale, saints' hearts are grieved. Though, like the deaf man, you suppose you've good achieved. The scribe of writ inspired had all its text by heart, then thought himself inspired would play a prophet's part. The prophet, warbler-like, smote him with powerful wing. He forthwith sank, a blind despair, through conscious sting. So 'tis with you, perversely are with vain surmise. You would interpret words descended from the skies, like Karut and Marut. Well, you've learnt the tune they sang of old in pride, were God's elect, jejune. You pray for grace on all the sins of wicked men. You curse your own foul egotism, greed's hungry ken. Beware lest God's just jealousy break forth amain and smite you the earth, ne'er more to rise again. These angels owed in words to rule is thine, O God. Without thy strong protection, safety soon downtrod. Such were their lip words, but their hearts' rebellious pride. With fullest boasting thought, no harm can us betide. They never cease to brood on vanities thus framed, till fire of arrogance burst forth from breast inflamed. Then proclamation made, O elemental man, how little have ye known the range of angels' ken. O weave dense curtains o'er the skies, revolving face, descending then to earth. While there our temple place, will justice distribute and worship we commend, returning every night to heaven whence we descend. So shall we be admired by all who dwell on earth and fill the world with gladness, safety, peace, and mirth. Alas, such fancy is false. Earth cannot heaven be. Their difference is radical, as all may see. And as we find out later in the poem, Iblis and the jinn are not ever the type of angel that the Malaika are. So the light beings are not the fire beings. The fire beings were never the light beings, but they were with each other, you know, until the fire beings sinned. You can say they were, you know, with the light beings. Even perhaps more exalted, you could say, because they could have sinned, but they didn't. But then they did, and, you know. So let's draw the distinction in saying that, you know, they didn't become of a different type of creation. They were always the same type of creation. Light, fire, clay remained light, fire, clay. And Redhouse mentions here that he failed to discover the name and history of the individual here used to point a moral by our great poet. Ibn Hisham and Nawawi do not mention him. Uthman is mentioned otherwise. Quran, Surah 36, ayat 7 and 8, and 99, ayat 1. There were rabbinical marks used in India. The heterodox sects of Islam were commonly said to be 72. Because what is the thing? The people who are upon the revelation and the inspiration, regardless of their material or psychological culture. And then there's those that, be they liberal, conservative, or reformist, that they put their own ways first. No, because there's nothing wrong with philosophy. It's when you say, oh, well, it's my philosophy, and you just quote some stuff. And, well, okay, when you put your thing over what's good and true. But a lot of people don't do philosophy. They just quote philosophers. It's not the same thing. The veiler, i.e. of sin, is one of the most comely names of God, but it is not found in the Quran. Ya Satar. I don't remember how many of the 319 names of Allah in Arabic that people, you know, off that list. I think there was a couple not on the list. Maybe as far as from the Quran. There's usually 99, 99, 99, 99. So there's 4 different 99 name lists. You put them together, you get 101. But none of them say only, you know. Just like there's not only 40 Hadith Qudsi, you know. Some of the commentators hold that Surah 774 alludes to the opposition of Balaam to Moses and the Israelites. See Tale 4, the Sitch 121, and 1112, and 9, 266. Are they referring to this book, or are they referring to the source of this book? Al-Quran, Surah 296, Tale 4, Stitch 121. Are they referring to the Mesnevi itself? Okay. Quran 1:5. Ikrimah, son of Abu Jahl, embraced Islam at sea as he fled from Mecca at its capture by Muhammad. He returned and was pardoned. Al-Quran, Surah 11, ayat 44 and 45. And it is canon of Islam, if a worshiper has no means of knowing the direction of God's house, Mecca, he may face in any direction he judges most probable, and so perform his worship. Now, there's a place in the South Pacific. If you face any direction, you're going to face Mecca. So when you have multiple options on the horizon, it's best to face the place that is closest. And then, of course, you know, the Prophet.